So I was watching on YouTube, and they have a trailer finally up for the remake of ROBOCOP that's going to be released in 2014 in February. And frankly, I'm very disappointed in what I see. And basically, what they've done to screw this movie up too is the same thing that they did in Superman, Man of Steel, which made it different from the 1978 version. And it's the same thing that they always done. They keep doing it, but that's Hollywood now. First of all, if you watch the first two RoboCop movies, now the first one was made by Paul Verhoeven. It was extremely graphic, and I always knew that they'd never be able to make a movie as graphic as the first RoboCop ever again, because that movie damn near got an X or an NC-17 rating. And I knew they'd never be able to do that again, so instead of getting shot up, he gets burned up in a car explosion or whatever, and then they put him into the RoboCop body, which I'm angry about because, number one, it takes away a lot of the criminal element behind his actual transformation. I mean, if you saw the first movie, you know that these guys, the criminals, tore him up with those guns. They executed him in a way which, number one, was realistic, and number two, was scary and frightening. But, you know, ultimately, the movie RoboCop was never about a robotic cop. The movie was supposed to be about allegories about what would happen if runaway corporatism, or another word for that is fascism, or what would happen if corporations ran away and suddenly they become so powerful that they end up running the state. And what they ended up doing was they ended up building robotic cops in order to kill crime rather than to police it. That's what RoboCop was always supposed to be about, because Paul Verhoeven understood fascism because of coming from Europe at the time that he came from Europe. So what we have now is exactly what they did to Judge Dredd. They've made it an ultra-violent sequel where basically RoboCop is like a CGI machine and he just walks around blasting people. And you can bet that this movie is going to look a lot like Judge Dredd. You can bet. It's gonna be the same thing that you saw in Judge Dredd 3D. A lot of people liked Dredd 3D more than Judge Dredd because they hated Stallone and they didn't like the fact that this was a rated R content released for PG-13 viewers. But me personally, I already made a short video saying that I actually like Judge Dredd because it actually takes you into the world of Judge Dredd without actually being overly violent, and it introduces you to a lot of the characters. But anyway, back to RoboCop. RoboCop 1 was about fascism, and it was about runaway corporatism. As you know, Detroit, which is where the movie takes place, was being basically run by GM at the time, right up until GM started outsourcing to Mexico and Asia in order to beat the unions, which was exactly what the fictional corporation OCP was always out to do. They wanted to beat the police unions, so what they did was they allowed the crime to run rampant by RoboCop 2. If you watch RoboCop 2, it was actually planned that they would allow crime to run rampant until the citizens cried out for help. So now, how do you look at real life, what we're going through right now? Well, right now, terrorism is our crime, and the crime on the streets is being quelled partially because of America suddenly becoming more of a police state. We've got predator drones about to start flying over our heads, checking our backyards to make sure we don't have illegal pools. We have cars, police cars that ride through the streets checking everybody's license plate automatically. We've got face recognition technology everywhere. We've got the NSA and CIA who today they've learned, like anybody didn't know this, that they are breaking into our encrypted data files. I mean, seriously, do you really think that encrypted data files are going to stop the fucking government? Do you really think that if you had loads of child porn and they could arrest you for it, do you really think that just because you pushed a button that said encrypt my backup that the government's not going to get you? Of course not. And you'd be stupid to believe anything other than that. But from what I see, here we got another computer-generated movie that's loaded with... It's going to probably be a rated R movie loaded with violence. God forbid they make this movie PG-13 just to let these fucking kids go watch it, because that'll be an automatic fail in my book if this movie comes out as PG-13. But this RoboCop looks like he's more human than robot, and basically you know, he just looks like a man just wearing a suit. And to me, this looks stupid. All of these action scenes from the trailer that you can actually see, you can see it's obvious CGI. One of the things that I miss so much about the 1980s and 1990s, whether it's The Predator or Alien or RoboCop, was the fact that for some reason back then, movie makers understood that if they were going to make a movie, they had to actually have real actors inside real suits. Yes, it's because, you know, CGI wasn't where it is now. So back then, if you watch, like, you know, Star Wars movies, you saw the Chicken Walker ATs, and those things were stop-motion miniatures, and that was an animation. But those things looked fake back then to the untrained eye. But RoboCop was always real because here you had Peter Weller wearing a chrome-clad suit. I mean, you couldn't get more realistic than that. But now, look what they've done. They've made this bullshit fucking CGI. They put Samuel L. Jackson in it, as if I give a fuck. And then they put a bunch of these, you know, other actors I couldn't give a shit about, who probably will not hold a candle to Kurtwood Smith or to Ronnie Cox. I mean, the lines from the first couple of RoboCop movies were just brilliant, especially the first one. So, you know what? I'll probably actually go and see this movie. I'm not expecting reviews to be good. If the movie critics decide that they actually like this actor, then automatically all the reviews will be good. But I'm gonna give an honest review of this movie, and I'm not gonna cut it any slack. Honestly, it's just like Man of Steel. I gave Man of Steel 1 fucking star because it was just sitting there in the audience. It was like being fucking trapped while I'm watching a stupid movie, and I was waiting for that movie to end. Meanwhile, every single time I watch, it comes on Fios television all the time. Every time I watch Superman 1978 or you watch Superman 2, you know, I'm watching these movies and I'm like, why is it that we can't make movies like that anymore? Why can't we make good movies where we use human actors and where we use real special effects? But this whole shit just sucks. And I mean, why? Like RoboCop right now, he's got a helmet that folds over his head like he's fucking from Stargate, and then he's got one hand exposed. I mean, you know, the first RoboCop movie, they tried to save one of his arms, and they said, no, fuck that. We want full body prosthesis. We're gonna make this man a goddamn cyborg super robot. And now this is just bullshit. And the guy goes to his house and he meets his son and all this. I mean, come on, man. Come on, seriously. You know, I'm very disappointed. But you know, I'm gonna save final judgment till I actually see the movie. But right now, this is looking like bullshit, and I hope they don't ruin the classics that were RoboCop 1 and RoboCop 2. But just like that shitty Prometheus movie did in ruining the Alien trilogy, I just don't know. I just don't know.